Hey guys, Connor here today at etrailer.com. Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the TorkLift GlowGuide Handrail. So our GlowGuide Handrail is really going to serve one purpose. It's going to help us when we're using the steps to get in and out of our RV. It's going to provide a sturdy connection point to the ground, as well as the side here via the support arm. We have the top arm here attached to the camper. And basically what this does is, with this 3 points of contact, it gives us a very sturdy handrail that we can use when we need support when we're getting in and out of our RV, such as our truck bed camper that we have here. We don't have to worry about falling. We're always going to have this sturdy handrail to grab onto to assist us when we're getting in and out of the camper. So something I really like about this GlowGuide here is it's going to be extremely compatible with tons of different trailers and RVs. It is, however, going to be specific to TorkLift's GlowStep line, which you can see we have installed here. But there's a few different lines of the GlowSteps here that are installed on trailers, fifth wheels, travel trailers, as well as our truck bed camper here. So chances are there's going to be a setup that will allow you to use the handrail. So similar to our GlowSteps, which you can see here, we have that sort of reflective tape that glows in the dark. That feature is going to carry over to our handrails here. As you can see, we have a part of the glow tape up here, one here, and then we have one down here. And what this is going to help us with, it's going to help us when we're getting in and out of the truck bed camper at night. This particular tape here is going to glow for up to 10 hours with only 5 minutes of light exposure. So we're not going to have to worry about missing our steps or missing the handrail when we're getting in and out of the camper at night. Overall, it's just a nice little feature that's going to help us with both safety and confidence using the handrail. So in regards to installation, keep in mind it'll vary depending on what particular steps we have and the type of trailer we're attaching it to, whether it be a truck bed camper or a fifth wheel or travel trailer. We have a couple different brackets depending on our steps here, but overall everything is pretty simple. We have a couple bolts here for our glow steps. If we come up to the top here, we have a couple holes we need to drill into for this upper bracket. And then the support bracket, which we see here, we're going to have another 2 holes. But that's it. Overall, definitely something simple that I encourage you guys to try at home by yourselves. So now that we have everything set up, we need to hit the road, head back home. We can go ahead and remove the GlowGuide. In order to do that, it's super easy. We're going to come over to the support arm first. We have these little bail clips, which we showed you earlier. We'll just pull down to release those. And we are going to loosen the handle so we can retract the arms inward. And we'll turn those back over to tighten them in place. Repeat this process for the upper rail as well. Pull that out. And again, we'll rotate to loosen it so we can retract it. Tighten it again. And now we're going to pull up and out here, placing one foot on the steps to hold them in place. And now last but not least, we can go ahead and loosen our arm here so we can fold it up, have a nice compact storage. And then we can just throw this in the camper until we're ready to use it again. So another nice feature of the GlowGuide handrail, as we can see, it's super light here. It's actually made of aluminum, so it's very easy to maneuver, and it has a pretty compact storage once we get all the arms retracted. It's also made in the USA, so you know you're getting a quality product. So to get started here, we're going to go ahead and take our glow steps here. We're going to connect them to the bracket on our camper, and then we're going to fully extend them. So now that we have our steps mounted, we want to go ahead and take our GlowGuide here and determine which side of the door it's going to be placed on. Now I know this may seem fairly obvious, but we just want to go ahead and make sure we check before we start drilling any holes. We're going to be installing the GlowGuide on the side opposite of our hinges. So keep in mind, your door may open out from a different direction. Just make sure that we're installing it on the side opposite to the hinges, which for this particular camper is going to be on our left side. So now we're going to take our GlowGuide assembly here. You can see we have 3 different arms. We need to go ahead and distinguish these arms from one another. Right now, we're going to take our upper arm here, which is the one that has the two handles on there. We're going to take this knob here, we're going to loosen it so we can then extend our arm outward. Then we're going to have two other arms. We're going to have the vertical arm, which has a threaded portion, and our support arm here, which has this little clamp on the end. So what we need to do now is, we're going to go ahead and loosen this knob here so we can adjust the angle of our upper arm. Then what we want to do is, if we take a look, there's a little guide on here, but we can turn this handle left or right to loosen this arm to allow it to extend or retract in. The reason we need to do this is, we want to go ahead and take our vertical arm here. We're just going to set it on the bottom step for now. We need to go ahead and make sure that with our arm extended, our upper arm extended, that we're able to reach the camper. So we're going to have to loosen our handle here and extend the arm outward. So keep in mind, depending on your setup, we may not be able to use the bottom step. We can install it on the next step up, and so on, until we can reach our RV with our upper arm here. So now we're going to be coming to the side of the steps that we're going to install our handrail on. And if we take a look at the outside here, we're going to have these 3 bolts here that are attaching these brackets to the bottom step. We're going to go ahead and take a 7/16 inch wrench and socket, and we're going to remove the lock nuts on the inside here of these 3 bolts. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So once we have our nuts off here, we need to actually go ahead and remove this bolt. But in order to do so, we need to be careful because there's going to be some nylon washers here, although it's hard to see between these aluminum links that we don't want to knock out. So we're going to take one of the 1/4 inch, 1.5 inch long bolts that come with our kit here. And these bolts are actually going to be labeled 1, 2, and 3 using the diagram in our instructions. We're going to take this 1/4 inch stainless steel bolt. We're going to come around the opposite way and butt it up with our other bolt, and we're actually going to hammer this through, which is going to keep our nylon washers in place and then knock out our bolt head here so we have the end of the bolt coming to the outside. So we're just going to take a hammer here. We're just going to sort of gently place the bolt here. So we were having a little trouble with our links and our plates here separating, and it was sort of causing our bolt to sort of jut up or down and not align with that hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pair of vice grips here. We're just going to clamp down those plates so everything gets aligned nice and evenly. Now we'll continue hammering our bolt through, knocking the other one out. And there we go. Now we have our new bolt through, and we have our old one knocked out. So we've got our steps propped up here so we can better show you the bolt we're going to be replacing. But essentially, the one we just knocked out, bolt number 1, we're going to be doing the same technique to replace bolt number 2, and then so on, replacing bolt number 2 with bolt number 3. So because our plates separated a little bit here, one of our nylon washers fell out, which is okay because it gives us now a good time to show you what these look like and how to reinstall them if they do fall out. If they do fall out, all we need to do is make sure we know which side of the end plate it's going to be installing on, but we'll just slip them back up there, and then we'll use our bolt here to make sure that we get it back into position. So I'm just using my fingernail to push that washer where we need it, and I should be able to re-secure it here with our new bolt once we get it properly aligned. So again, since we were having a little trouble keeping the nylon washers in place, I'll just come back with my vice grips here and clamp those plates down so we don't have to worry about the nylon washers falling out. And there we go. Now we'll go ahead and just use that same process. Use bolt number 2 to replace bolt number 3. So this is what our bolt should look like once we have all of them pushed through, going the opposite way. And we're going to come in our kit here, and again, this part is going to vary depending on which steps we have. We're going to be taking bracket B here, which you can see here, we have the 3 holes, sort of this flat bar, and we have this open round end. The open round end is going to be facing the very outside of the steps here, so the end of our step. what we'll do is we'll go ahead and place the bracket over these 3 holes here. The instructions don't call for this, but we're going to come back with our vice grips here, and we're just going to clamp everything down so we don't have to worry about it moving. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our stainless steel hardware, the 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch bolts, and we're going to do similar to the technique we were using earlier, but we're going to push these all back through with the bolt heads on the outside. So we'll go ahead and show you that now. So we may get hung up a little bit. We might just need to adjust our bracket slightly to let our bolts pass through. But there we go. We'll just repeat this process on our other 2 bolts here. Now we're going to take the 1/4 inch stainless steel nylock nuts. As you can see here, they're super thin. We're going to be taking these out of our kit, and we're just going to be threading them on to our stainless steel bolts. We'll be using a 7/16 inch wrench and socket to tighten those down. So we're going to tighten those till snug, then we're going to loosen it about 1/12 of a turn. So I can feel it getting snug there. So now we're going to go ahead, just loosen it, as they say, about 1/12 of a turn. So that should be fine. Now we'll just go ahead and repeat this process on our other 2 bolts. So now that we have our lower bracket installed here, we need to go ahead and determine the correct location for our upper arm mount. Now our upper arm mount here is going to install on the outside of our door framing here. We need to go ahead and measure up to the recommended 36 inches from the top step. So we're going to measure from the top step here all the way up on our door to the 36-inch mark, which will be around here. Now keep in mind, we're going to be coming on the outside of our door trim here. We're going to have a nice little bracing that we can tie into for adequate support. And a good indicator of that is going to be our grab handle that we already have. So you can see here, it's attached just to the outside of our door trim. So we already know there's going to be some sort of steel backing here that we can tie onto. Now keep in mind, we can adjust the height of our upper bracket here based on preference, but the instructions recommend 36 inches, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and measure now from the top step up about 36 inches. And once I have that point, I'm just going to carry it over here. It doesn't need to be exact. I'm going to take a paint marker here, a Sharpie, and I'm just going to make a small little line. That way I know about the height that we're going to be drilling the upper bracket. So now we're going to take our upper bracket here. This is what our upper bracket looks like. As you can see in our kit here, we have 2 that are virtually identical. However, if we turn them around to the back, we see one of them has a spacer attached and one of them doesn't. The upper bracket that we're going to be using next is the one that has a spacer attached. So just make sure that we're aware of that for this next step. So now we're going to take our upper bracket here. We're going to sort of align the center of the bracket with the hole that we made, or sorry, the mark that we made on the side of our camper. So it doesn't need to be perfect. We want to line it up into about the center. I'm going to press the bracket all the way up flush against our trim here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bracket here as a template to drill out our 2 holes here. Now I can't really fit any sort of marker in there, so what I'm doing now is I'm actually just taking a test light. If you have any sort of sharp object such as a pick tool, basically all we're doing is going to shove that in that hole there so we have a nice little mark at where we need to drill our hole. If we take this off, we should see 2 small indentations here and here. I can mark those for you now to give you a little bit better visual. But these are the holes. These are what we're going to be using to drill our holes here. So they're kind of hard to see, but we have one there, and we have one there. So now with our 1/8 inch drill bit here, we're going to go ahead and drill out our 2 holes. So now that we have our holes drilled here, I'm going to be taking some silicone sealant, similar stuff to what you'd use to seal up a roof here. We're just going to try to fill those holes as much as we can. We're going to use our caulk gun here to pump it up as much as we can get in there. Now we'll just repeat this process a few more times, trying to get as much silicone as we can into our holes. So now that we have our holes nice and full with silicone, we're going to take our upper bracket here. If we look on the back, there's actually going to be some double-sided tape because the back of this does have an adhesive backing. So what we'll do now, we'll make sure we have our holes lined up, and then we'll go ahead and attach our bracket, our upper bracket, onto the camper. So now we'll take our number 10 1¼ inch screws here. We'll go ahead and drill those through our holes. Get both started, then we'll run them the rest of the way home. Now keep in mind, we need to be careful not to over tighten these and strip out our holes. And there we go. So keep in mind, there are a couple different ways and a couple different brackets we can use to install this upper bracket here. We just need to make sure that when we drill, we get some sort of frame, wooden frame or aluminum backing. But since we know where our existing grab handle is mounted here, we were able to easily identify where our backing was. So we have a nice secure surface to mount our upper bracket. However, if you weren't able to reach any of this wood backing or the aluminum framing here, you'd want to use one of the alternative methods to attach this upper bracket, which are provided in the installation instructions. So now we're going to take our GlowGuide here. We're going to be taking the rubber stopper here. We're going to be attaching it to our vertical arm, which is going to be the one with the threaded end. Now keep in mind, this step here is also again going to vary depending on what bracket we have installed. Since we're using this bracket B, we're going to be using this rubber plug here. And we're going to take our GlowGuide. We're simply going to press that down. It may help a little bit to rotate it to get it through both of those holes there on our bracket. But essentially, we want it to go all the way through and rest on the ground. Just like that. So now we can go ahead and attach our upper arm to the bracket we just installed on our camper. We're going to need to get one of our bail pin and clips ready for this process. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen this top knob here to allow us to adjust the angle of our upper arm. As you can see, we can pull it out. There's actually some teeth on the inside, which is what are used to lock it in place. What we also need to do is we need to go ahead and rotate this to a line perpendicular with our camper. And then we're going to rotate our handle here as well. You can see we can turn it left to loosen, right to tighten, depending on which way you're standing. We can go ahead and loosen that. We should be able to pull this arm out and align it. If we take a look at the end of our handle here, we're going to see a hole here, which will line up with the hole in our bracket. We'll insert those in there like so. Then we can take our bail clamp here, once we have the holes lined up, and secure it in position. We can push that all the way through and secure it with our bail clamp. Now we'll go ahead and retighten our handle here to lock it in place. Just like that. Once we have the angle set, we can also lock in our knob on the side here, which adjusts the angle. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to go ahead and pick a location for the support arm bracket to attach it to the wall of our camper here. Now we do have one stipulation we need to be aware of in the instructions, and that's that the bracket here for our support arm is installed at least 24 inches away from the outside edge of our steps. So I'm going to take a tape measure here as well as a paint marker, and I'm just going to mark a location more than 24 inches. This will really vary depending on your camper here. But I can see I have a little backing here, so I want to come outside of that. So we are going to do 30 inches. We'll call it 30 inches. I can feel on the back there, I know that we have plenty of material to grab onto. So I'll just make a little mark here to let us know where that 30-inch mark is. So now we'll take our support arm bracket here. If we recall, it's going to be the same one as the upper bracket we just installed without that spacer on the back. So we're just going to use the same method we used to attach that. Mock it up. Use a little probe here, anything we have, to sort of mark the center of those holes. It can be kind of hard to see. We'll go ahead and outline those for you here. There and there. And now we'll go ahead and drill those out, fill it with some silicone, and reattach our bracket here. So now we're going to take our other bracket here, which is for the support arm. If you remember, this one is going to look the exact same as the upper bracket, but it's not going to have that spacer on the back. So we just went ahead and peeled off the back side of the tape here, so it exposes the adhesive surface. We went ahead and stuck that on to the side of our camper. Now keep in mind, we do need to make sure that we angle the bracket this way so our support arm can come up and install in there like so. And we went out to about 30 inches to the center of our bracket because we looked behind the wall on our camper here and made sure that we had adequate support and bracing to hold our bracket. So we went ahead and just stuck that on now. Now we're just going to use the same process we used to attach the other one, drilling out those holes there and securing it with our screws. So now we can take our support arm here. We can go ahead and loosen up this knob so we can spin it freely on the vertical post. We also want to take our handle here and rotate that counterclockwise to loosen our arm here. We should be able to pull it outward, and we can line up our holes here with our arm in the bracket. Take our other bail clamp here, line up the holes, and push our pin through. And there we go. We can go ahead and finally tighten down our handle to lock the arm in place. And that'll do it today for our look and installation of the TorkLift GlowGuide Handrail.